Hey everybody, my name is Dr. Scott Giacomucci. I'm a trauma therapist and educator and an EMDR certified consultant. In this video, I'm going to go over the basics of EMDR future templates. So this video could be useful for any EMDR therapists that want a refresher on how to use future templates with their clients, or any clients engaged in EMDR who are curious about what to expect in an EMDR future template session. Now, generally speaking, we're not going to do any EMDR future templates until we've already done probably months of work related to history taking, safety, coping skills, preparation, EMDR resourcing, and then EMDR processing of past traumatic memories and present-day triggers. So generally, we do all that first. Then we come and we do EMDR future templates that are specifically attached to the past memories and present-day triggers that have already been reprocessed and desensitized. Now, there are situations where we might go out of order and we might start with future templates and then work our way backwards to present-day triggers and past memories. And some situations where that might be worth considering would be if the client is really struggling with hope for the future and we really want to instill some hope, then we might start with creating these future templates. Or if we're unsure about the client's stability or their goodness of fit for EMDR, then we might start with future templates, then with the past memories. But generally speaking, future templates are going to be the last thing we do in reprocessing an entire memory network with past memories and present-day triggers. So at this point, we've been working with a memory network that has multiple memories and present-day triggers that are all united together by a negative belief and similar feelings and physical sensations. So we've already got that information. And we're going to check in and say something like, what's a future situation related to these present-day triggers that we expect to find ourselves in, that we'd want to prepare ourselves for a bit? And just use an example from one of my clients was we did a lot of work around dating. And actually, this has been many clients over the years. And the client said, I really struggle with compliments from men because, the past trauma was related to sexual trauma with men. And so dating today really caused activation and was really triggering whenever a man would offer any compliments or positive feedback to the client. So we said, all right, let's identify a future situation where you're on a date, things are going fine, and you receive a compliment from your date. Ideally, how would you like to respond in that situation? And so we'll start to map out this ideal response, this future template, almost like we're creating a movie of what we would like to happen in the future. Next time we're in that situation where the past trauma and triggers typically would have been activated, but now we've done all this work desensitizing or reprocessing these past memories and triggers. So we're creating a new movie of what could happen now that you might not be triggered by the same things. So we're basically identifying the desired outcome here. And let's say the client says, well, I want to be able to receive a compliment, believe what the other person is saying is true, and feel good about myself and thank them. Say, okay, so we've got the desired outcome. And now that we have this desired outcome, we're going to check in about the positive beliefs, positive cognitions that were installed and attached to the other past memories and present-day triggers from previous sessions. And we're going to see if that positive cognition could also fit for this future template. So whatever that positive belief was, we're going to say, hey, when we desensitize the memories related to this, your positive belief was, I am worthy. Is that a positive belief that could go well with this future template we're creating, this desired outcome of being able to receive a compliment and believe it and thank the other person? If the client says yes, then we're going to go with that. If the client says no, then we're going to get a different belief. And basically, we're going to ask the client to imagine being in that situation right now, playing that movie in their head, receiving the compliment, believing that they're worthy, accepting the compliment, believing that the other person meant it, and thanking them for the compliment, whatever the future template is that they've identified. And we're going to give them a minute to imagine doing that. And then we're going to check in with them and say, what did you notice during that? If the client says something positive that they noticed during it, then we're going to strengthen that with some eye movements or bilateral stimulation. All right, great. Focus on that. Notice what you experience. Follow my fingers. And we might do a couple sets of strengthening whatever experience they're having as they remember or imagine this future desired outcome. If the client says something negative, then we're going to have to approach it differently. We're going to have to sort out, what is it that's coming up? Is it a little bit of leftover residue from the past triggers and memories that we already reprocessed? In which case we might just go right into desensitizing that. All right, focus on that, disturbing feeling that came up. Follow my fingers, notice what you experience, and we might just desensitize whatever is left right there and then. A good thing to do would be to get a quick SUD score. If you have the client imagine the desired future outcome, they have a negative response, you say 0 to 10, how disturbing does it feel right now? If they say, a simple rule of thumb is below 5, you could probably jump right into desensitizing that and desensitize it down to a 0 pretty quickly. If it's above a 5, then you've got some bigger problems. It probably means that there's other feeder memories attached to this trigger and future template that you need to go back and reprocess before you're going to be able to successfully do an EMDR future template. And even if it's below a 5, that could also be an indicator that there's some feeder memories that need to be further desensitized that we may have missed when we did memory mapping or when we reprocess and desensitize the past traumatic memories. But whatever is left over in that memory network that you've been working on, it's going to show up in the future templates that you try to create with the client. So it's almost like a compass pointing you back to anything that was missed or overlooked or just didn't come up during the memory mapping or the EMDR sessions on the other memories. So you might have to pivot, go back and deal with whatever is coming up, and then come back to the future template. Other times you can just jump right into desensitization within the future template session, desensitize it out, and then revisit the future template, have the client replay it again with a positive belief. If they're noticing something positive, then you can move on to the next part of future template. And so as you move on, you're going to have the client replay the memory again, pairing it with that positive cognition again. I'm worthy, or whatever it was. This time you're going to add bilateral stimulation, eye movements, or tapping, or whatever form of bilateral stimulation you're using, while the client is imagining this desired future outcome. And do it for a handful of sets, pause, ask the client, what did you notice that time? And each time they notice something new that's positive, you're going to strengthen that. So let's say the client says, I noticed that I was feeling confident. Say, awesome, great job. Focus on that feeling of confidence. Notice what you experience. You go right back into some bilateral stimulation. What'd you notice that time? Oh, I noticed that I was feeling like I'm starting to believe the compliment that my date gave me. Wonderful. Focus on that feeling of starting to believe the compliment. Follow my fingers. Notice what you experience. And we just keep going, strengthening anything positive until we start to run out of time or we start to no longer receive significant feedback when we ask, what did you notice that time? Then we're going to check in on how strongly paired the positive belief is to the future template by using the VOC scale. On a scale of 1 to 7, how true does this feel to you when you imagine this future situation of going on a date and believing a compliment from someone? Ideally, it's at a 7. Then we do a quick body scan, check in with the client, see if there's anything in their body that they notice, and then you move on to closure. So essentially, that's what an EMDR future template looks like. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple, and it's the kind of thing that we normally have to use multiple future templates for any given memory network. Just like there's multiple triggers and multiple past memories in the same memory network most of the time, we also often need to use multiple future templates in order to create a future template. I like to think of it as laying the train track for how we're going to move and how we're going to be in a future situation. Now, if there's extra time in an EMDR future template session, Another thing you can do is add a challenge to the future template. So initially, we're asking the client to imagine an ideal response in a typical situation. So they're replaying that. Once they're successful with creating that future template, for example, we've been using the example of going on a date and believing the compliment from someone. Then we could spice it up a bit and throw a challenge in there. Let's say we tell the client, now that we've created this future template, what's a possible aspect of the situation that could be different that would make it even more challenging than the one that we just imagined? In what scenario would it be even more difficult to accept a compliment from somebody? And let's say the client says, well, it would be even more difficult to accept a compliment if there were other women in the room that I felt like were prettier than I was. It would be hard to believe that my date really meant that about me. And say, all right, let's imagine this new situation and your ideal response to it, being able to believe the compliment and thank your date and notice what you experience. And if they can do that and notice something positive, then we strengthen it with as many sets of bilateral stimulation as needed and move towards body scan and then closure. So again, this is how to do EMDR future template sessions. If you wanted to learn more about other aspects of EMDR, I would encourage you to check out the other videos on this channel. Go ahead and write in the comments. Let us know if this was helpful, if there's any other topics you'd like me to cover in future videos, and subscribe to the channel if you wanted to get notified about future videos being released.